live! Welcome to the first ever episode of Her Table. This is so exciting.
Yay!
Today we're gathering to talk about work, life, and in today's episode, healing and what's next. I'm your host, Amy, and today's episode is a very special one for me because we are here joined by someone whose work has deeply impacted not only my life, but the lives of so many others. So Christy, thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited to have you at the table.
Yay! Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Do you know what? I thought about this yesterday and I was like, I don't even think we both realize the impact of just, when you make these monumental moments of like the beginning, and it's super exciting. I'm just so grateful to be a part of that and be a part of your journey. It's awesome. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll start at the beginning, but I'm going to start with every episode. My first question for everyone is going to be, when you were younger, how did you imagine your future or career would look like? Like, what did you want it to be? Like, for my example, I remember being in primary school and we done like a leavers assembly, and it was like you had to dress what you wanted to be when you was older, and I dressed up as a nurse. Okay. And it's so funny how I was a nurse when I was like 6, but now I'm in the whole industry of data and data analytics. And obviously, I know you don't understand back then what you really want to be, but it's just funny on where you wanted to be when you were younger and to where you are now.
Yeah, it's so true. Do you know what? When I was younger, I was kind of lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. At one point, I think when I was really young, I wanted to be a vet. And then I discovered that I was scared of animals.
That's so funny.
It's really funny, right? I was like, I'm scared of dogs. How am I going to be a vet? But I did love animals. And then after that, I loved physical therapy. So I was really into like the body and the human body. And, I always loved being in science and doing like anatomy, physiology. And I was just really good at it. It just clicked. But I never knew what I really wanted to do. And then when I came out of school, I just followed what made me money. I just went straight into hustling. And then once I started making money doing nails, I was like, oh, well, I like this. I love making money. And this is kind of that's where I stayed. But I never really had like I always knew though, deep down inside, like there was something within me that was just like, I always had this feeling like I want to help heal the world. But I had no idea how I was going to do that. Like none. Yeah. So that was pretty much it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did that. 23 years. Yeah.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. So like healing wasn't even a career. Like I didn't even know that I needed it yet. But before like I even knew what I was doing, it was like I was already doing it because I was like being somebody's therapist by sitting and doing that and talking to people all day long. But I always loved movement and exercise. Like that was always a huge part of my life because of my dad. He was always, my mum and dad were always big into like exercise, and my dad was a coach. So
amazing.
I know.
Okay, let's start at the beginning of who you are and how did this path into nervous system healing and regulation begin?
Oh, that's a long one.
Big question.
Wow. So I am a 39-year-old woman that is, I'm a mother. I have 2 amazing boys. And I guess the short of the long story is basically I lived in high functioning survival for years, hustling, doing, going, just repeating patterns over and over again. And I got to a phase where my body forced me to listen before my mind was even ready. It like said, that's enough, Christy, time to pause. And that's when moving country for me, really was the pause that changed everything, because I collapsed. Like literally it was the most challenging time in my life. And when I moved from England to America, I had to start my life all over again. And doing that at 30 years old, it was not light work. It It was, yeah, it was bad. I was in a very dark time. I was extremely depressed, riddled with anxiety. I didn't know which way to go. And then I discovered yoga. And, you know, I started regulating myself through doing yoga, just practicing it myself, because that was like my, you know, my like outlet at the time. Really, I didn't realize what I was doing and how much inwards I was going. And, you know, and then I started to realize regulation really changed how I lived, not how I just coped. And then I started to, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to take my teacher training so I can help others, you know, learn how to start regulating themselves. And that's been almost 10 years now. And then just little bit by little bit, I followed the breadcrumbs. And yeah, but that was really the biggest thing that led me to it, was just absolute collapse of my life and having to start again. I mean, I moved here with nothing but a suitcase.
It's crazy. And it's so mad that like sometimes the darkest parts of your life bring you the brightest parts, if that makes sense. Like it took you to get to your dark part to realize what you wanted to bring you back to life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people forget sometimes. Like your darkest days, they call it your worst days, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not always your worst days.
No. It just feels like it when you're in it, because you can't see the way out. But one thing about me is I've always been really like anyone that knows me, like I've always been really good at figuring things out. Like people always come to me because they like want a solution, and I've always stayed very solution based. So even though I was majorly emotional, I was like, I have to find a way. I have to find a way. And the way out was in.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. So going on to before you got to this part, what did your life look like before you began this work? So what was your career before healing?
So I was doing nails. That's what I did predominantly when I was in the beauty industry, when I was in England. And, you know, again, I was just hustling. So externally, everything looked fine. But internally, I was exhausted. I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't, you know, I would go through waves. And I think a lot of people experience this. I would go through waves of everything would be great, and then it wouldn't be. And then everything would be great, and then it wouldn't be. And I hated that feeling because it kept returning, you know, and the peace, it never lasted. So, you know, like that constant feeling of like, oh, here we are again.
Like, I can relate.
And then you get that deep sense of just being lost. And, you know, and that's what I was like, you know, there has to be more to this. There has to be a reason why this pattern keeps repeating. But that's the main thing I would say. It just looked like I was moving from survival. You know, I was just chasing money. And it doesn't make you happy. It doesn't bring you peace.
No, I can definitely relate to that. What was the moment you realised that this wasn't just personal healing, it was your calling?
Oh, that happened when, I left, so I stopped teaching yoga. I think it was just COVID hit, and I was teaching online over Zoom, and I hated it. I like to be in person. You don't get that same connection, right, when you're doing it online. And so I left teaching yoga and I went back to chasing money again. And, you know, the thing is for me is I'm one of those people that I'm never afraid to try something new. So I tried everything. And I've tried loads of different avenues, and that's what kind of led me into, like, I went into finance and insurance, and then I've done like a little bit of network marketing, and I knew that I was so good at leading people. I was really good at, you know, helping others be a better version of themselves. And I also discovered that I was really good at simplifying things. So through those experiences and taking those different risks and trying new things, you discover more about yourself. And I think so many people get caught up in doing the same thing or thinking they need to do the same thing their whole lives. They never try anything new. And I've never been that person. I like to try new things. Like, I'm never afraid. I don't care like what people think, or, oh, you've tried 1,000,001 things. Yeah. Because it's helped me. It's led me to this point in my life where I'm at. Right.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to return to yoga, but I didn't know how deep it was or how deep it went. Right.
Yeah.
And so I started to realize that, therapy, yoga, I got incredibly good at pattern recognition. Because I lived from hypervigilance for so long, I'm really good at, like, I have this like meta awareness for pattern recognition in other people and in myself. And once I started to realize like my patterns kept repeating in love, in money, in life, purpose, I knew that there has to be a scientific reason. Like, the way the body functions, the way we move, the things that happen, our health, all these different things, come from our bodies, right? So that's when I started studying neuroscience, the nervous system, neuroplasticity, how the brain functions, how it works. And then from there, I just followed the breadcrumbs and I started to really understand, wow, now I get why my patterns aren't changing, why the loops aren't closing, why everything keeps returning. So like I said, then I learned I'm really good at simplifying. One of my mentors, that mentored me back when I was doing finance, he actually pointed that out to me. He was like, you're like me, you're very good at simplifying things. So I took everything that I knew, all my knowledge, and I simplified it into something that was tangible that anyone could do every single day. And, and then I started to do it and I was like, oh my gosh, it's really wild.
I'm smiling because as you're explaining it, my smile was just gradually getting bigger because obviously, as I've explained on Instagram and stuff, like, you've heavily influenced how I deal with my life now. And by going by what you've created, which we'll get into further down the line. But I'm just smiling because as you're saying it, this is the first time I've properly heard your journey, like in depth and detail. So as you're speaking about it, I can see it matching together, like your timeline. And it's just making me smile because, like I said, I know how what you've created works, and like this is why it's so special because I'm almost like living proof that like it really does work. So it was just like as you was talking, I could just see in the camera my smile was gradually just getting bigger as you was talking about
I know it's just crazy. And once I really started to understand, like, I was like, wow, I couldn't believe how much it worked in such a short space of time compared to the years of work I've done with other things, because I've tried everything. And that's what led me to that point. I've done it all. The hypnotherapy, the therapy, the deep regression, the shadow work. I've done it all because what people don't realize is that you can regulate yourself by meditating in the morning or doing your yoga, but then you have to go throughout your whole day. You get in your car, you get dysregulated, you go back into survival. You get an email, you get a text message, something happens in life, constantly pulling you back to that dysregulation. And I was like, people don't understand that they have to go moment to moment to moment to moment. And that's what I was missing and what to do in that moment. So once I understood it, and and people always told me like about my classes and how they felt, and so I was already doing the majority of the work without even realizing the depth of what I was doing. But that's when I truly knew that it was just like this is it. This is fully the lane.
It is amazing. And what do you think, like, the hardest part of turning your healing into a business that's going to be provided to everyone?
Okay, so the hardest part is, for any business, I would say, is you have to have unwavering faith in the unknown. Yeah. Like, as human beings, we struggle with uncertainty. We want to be certain about everything because certainty regulates us, right? Yeah. And once I understood that you have to like break away from that, you have to break away from needing this external certainty, and you just have to have this unwavering faith in not knowing what's going to happen, but staying on your path. most people give up before, you know, they reach that breaking point because they don't get instant gratification. They don't get those instant results, views and helping people. And you have to be okay with trusting the slow, like embodied growth. And when you move out of survival, you have to also release like hustle as an identity, right? You have to realize that you don't, you know, things don't change because you hustle. Things change because you're in alignment with what it is that you're truly doing. And you know it's your calling when you don't waver from that no matter what, because you know that like, this is it. I know it works. So whether I reach one person, whether I reach 100 people, 1 million people, it doesn't matter because I've changed lives. Yeah. So yeah, I would say that's the hardest part. You've really just got to stick with what it is that you believe in.
100%. Same with this podcast. I've been thinking about it for months. And I kept saying to Ryan, I don't know if I should do it. And he's like, you just got to take the leap of faith because you will never know. And then I was like, but imagine if it only reaches one person or no one watching it. Is that, but you could change that one person's life with that one conversation you've had. That matters.
And that one person might go and change billions of people's lives.
100%. What do people not see about the emotional and energetic cost of this kind of work?
What do people not see? I would say they don't place value on, you know, the importance of regulating yourself. So, you know, I think that people will go to the, you know, I hate to use the gym analogy because I know not everybody works out, but, you know, your brain is a muscle. It's the strongest muscle in your body, really. It's the most powerful, right? And people don't place value on training your brain and regulating yourself and how important it is for the body, for your health, for all these different things. Because, you know, when you're moving from a dysregulated state and you're moving from survival, you're constantly producing stress chemicals into your body, which then leads to other things. You know, there's so many studies out there that it leads to, you know, illnesses, cancer, autoimmune, which is something else that I suffered with, right? I suffered with my health. I got diagnosed back in 2018 with, you know, a dis-ease, right? And really, it was just my body, you know, like I've just been producing all these stress chemicals for such a long period of time. So it's not that just regulation helps with your mindset, your clarity, you know, your everyday life. It helps with the condition of your body as a whole. So you can have longevity, you can be healthier. And people don't realize or place value on the fact that you have to shut your system down. Like you have to you have to think of it like a computer, right? You have to shut it down. You have to reboot it. You have to restart it. And going inwards, you know, it does that. It helps you regulate everything, your hormones, you know, your whole state. And it is the most important piece. That people they don't place value on it. They just go out throughout their day on autopilot, doing with no being. And literally it is one of the most important things that you can do. You shouldn't even go throughout your day without being, at least, you know, in the morning and the evening.
100%. Yeah. And like, obviously you're providing all this positivity and advice and therapy to so many people. But how do you stay regulated while holding space for so many people?
Well, you know, number one, I do my practice, you know, my nervous system, I do it every day. So morning, nighttime is non-negotiable for me. Mm-hmm. Before I even wake up and get out of bed, you know, my body alarm wakes me up, you know, and before I even do anything, I lie there, I do my breath work, I go inwards. Even when the mind is what I call the monkey mind, it starts, you know, our adrenaline, our cortisol fire in the morning. So our mind starts going, the things we need to do to the predictable future or to the past. And, you know, so I always take that time in the morning. You know, I give myself that space before I have to wake up and, you know, shift into being a mom or doing some work, whatever it may be. And then throughout the day, going through the triggers. If I get triggered, you know, I stop myself in the moment. And I listen to my body. That's the most important thing. You have to listen to my body, your body. And it becomes a lifestyle, not just work, right? It's not something we're doing to obtain an outcome. It just becomes part of your lifestyle, and then supplements, eating well, being in environments that don't, cause you, aren't chaotic. So those things I would say, really help me. Definitely.
Yeah,
but listening to your body is number one.
Number one. I've learned that so much over the last probably 3 months. You have to listen to your body. If you don't, you are going to crash. You will crash.
Correct.
What daily or nervous system practices support your success? And it kind of takes us on to kind of what we just spoke about, but more into the CIRA system.
Yeah. So, like I said, morning and night is non-negotiable. Before you go to bed at night as well, making sure you just take that moment, put your phone down, because that's the thing. Most people just wake up and start scrolling on their phone, and then before you know it, you've got emails, you've got text messages, you're on your Instagram, you're this, and then you're just you go into that dysregulated survival state. So they're non-negotiable. Using my catch, interrupt, reframe and anchor CIRA method while you're triggered is huge, because that is the perfect window to rewire. And then yoga and movement. I move my body every day. That looks different depending on my cycle, because as females, we're not meant to be robotic. We're not meant to be like machines. Men function differently. Their nervous system is different. But as women, we have to follow our cycles, right? And there's certain times of the month that you don't need to go hard. Then there's other times in the month where you do need to have that hard workout where you just, you sweat it out and, you push yourself past that edge. So yoga and movement is huge for me.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a walk or jumping on my trampoline, like things like that. And then another big one that I do is I never respond from urgency. And that's a nugget. That's like,
it's a nugget.
Never respond from urgency. Because what happens is we're so programmed and conditioned, like I said, to move from survival to be in this dysregulated state, because most of us, it's all we know, right? Most people don't even realize that they're in this state. So when those chemicals fire in our body, it creates urgency. We want to react, we want to respond, we want to shut down, we get these urgent feelings that some people call intuition, and it's really not. So it's one rule I live by. If it feels urgent, I pause, I wait. And then I see how I feel. Does the feeling pass? Is it just a wave? How do I feel afterwards? And then when I'm in a more, where I'm in that, I can feel when I'm regulated or dysregulated, I see if the feeling is still there. If it's still there and I'm calm and I'm grounded, I then take action. But if it passes, I'm like, oh, see, you tried to trick me. And I don't move. Yeah.
It does. It really does.
That's what makes that easier. Yeah, definitely.
100%. It really does try to catch you out. There's been a couple of times I've messaged you it's not going. You're like, just take a minute, just hold off, then react. And I was like, okay. And then it does eventually go. And sometimes it's just not the right time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the biggest misconception as well. People think you're going to instantly feel better in the moment, and it doesn't always work like that, because sometimes it takes a while for the chemistry to move, right? So we can regulate ourselves in the moment, but then the chemistry is still in our body. So we still have that shakiness. Our heart's still beating fast. We're trying to calm ourselves down. And then in that moment, that's when you have to then go and do something else. I always say live your everyday life, or go and move your body, go take a walk, go and do some exercise. That's when awareness really comes into listening to your body.
100%.
But pausing before you act or respond is huge.
100%.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. How do you make aligned decisions when fear or uncertainty shows up? So I've had quite a few people reach out since I posted that you was coming on, saying, I'm definitely tuning in. I'm really suffering with my anxiety at the minute. Obviously, I'm your biggest supporter. So I'm like, guys, follow her. She's changed my life. She'll 100% change yours. You have to follow it. And I understand this one, because when you're in that state of mind of anxiety, or, not everyone's is anxiety, but just that feeling of uncertainty. And it's life. You have to make decisions when you're feeling like that. But how do you make the right one when feeling like that? If you can't shift that feeling, but you've got to make a decision, how do you know if you're making the right one?
Well, that's a good question. Well, first of all, I didn't change your life. You changed your life. I just gave you the tools, right?
Yeah, fair.
You did the work. So you have to be proud of yourself and take credit for that. I just gave you a tool to be able to understand and how to feel and to have the awareness to do that.
Yeah.
But you have to do the work. But fear never disappears. Fear is not something that goes away. But, what people have to understand is creating safety in your nervous system first increases your clarity.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people, it's very hard when you don't have any safety within your body to discern which filter you're moving from. Right. Am I moving from, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? Is this aligned? Is it not aligned? First of all, I just say, you should feel the fear and do it anyway, but it does come down to capacity. So you do have to check, what your capacity is like, because if something you're going to do is going to make you collapse and be extremely anxious, then it's not the right time, because that's going to put you back into a dysregulated state. Like you feel the fear, but you feel like you have the capacity to be able to do it. It's not going to make you collapse. Today, you're going to feel more full, and then you're going to be like, yes, I've got this. I can continue on, right? Yeah. That's capacity to be able to do it. And I always say, if your body feels tight and you feel braced, usually means like it's a no or a not yet, right? And peace is data. That's another huge one. Having peace is data. That really helps you understand, okay, well, I can make this decision because it is going to make me, afterwards you feel more peaceful. But you can't, fear is just false evidence appearing real, right? It's just something that is within us that, it's not a reality. It's just something that our body goes, danger, danger, when it's not. Because of all these traumas or programmings or whatever you've grown up with that is within you, and you do have to learn the difference between discomfort and misalignment. But again, it takes time. You've got to create the safety as the foundation first. And then you can be like, okay, this doesn't feel aligned. And I generally say to people, if you're ruminating in your mind, let's say you work in a job and every day you're like, I don't know whether I should do this. Oh, I did it. Well, first of all, you do know. And the fact that you're even questioning it, oh, I don't know. No, usually means that it's not in alignment. But most people are afraid to take that next step. But sometimes you've just got to do it. And then afterwards you'll be like, oh, I did it. And that's how when you get that exhale, where you're like, I did it, I made the decision, I moved anyway. That's when But you can't be afraid to fail. No. You have to, like I always say, you have to fail forward, right? Even if you make a mistake or it is the wrong decision, you can't be afraid of that, because you're going to learn from it. It's going to benefit you in some way.
You have to fail sometimes to learn. Like, how else? We all don't know everything. Nothing's perfect. Nothing in life is perfect. So you have to fail to understand what you have to do right next time.
Correct.
Who or what has supported you most in your healing journey?
Oh, my parents.
100%.
My parents are the most amazing human beings on this earth. Honestly, they have given me unwavering support in every way possible. From helping me with my children, to just being there, supporting me when I'm down and reminding me of who I am and why I do what I do. And God, it makes me emotional even talking about it.
It's beautiful.
They're just great human beings. They're just great people. And they support everything and anything I do. And they encourage me as well. They really do encourage me just to be the best version of myself. Not just that, to learn to just live life and have fun and enjoy myself. Because for the longest time, I was so fixated on fixing myself, right? And we don't need to fix ourselves. We're not broken. And, you know, my parents just remind me that it's just important to just live life. And then not just that, my friends, you know, moving country is extremely challenging, especially when all your friends are in, you know, another country and everyone you've ever known. So I've made amazing support group here and friends, and they have just been, you know, they've just created that safe space for me to be able to be myself, and, you know, for me to call up and be, you know, call my friend and be like, oh my God, guess what? I figured it out. And they're like, okay. And they come on the journey with me. They support me. They show up wherever. They're at my yoga classes. They're at where I, you know, speak. You know, they're the first to buy, you know, my method and try it and do it and listen to what I have to say. And, you know, it's just, that's a huge thing. You've got to have a good support system. And, you know, I'm very grateful for that. And also my body, right? My body has been, you know, supporting me through my healing, because once I really learned to listen to my body, it was like, oh, like I love myself, you know, like this vessel has supported me this far. It's taking me this far. And I think that we forget to just give thanks and give love. And it's something I teach every day in my yoga classes, like hug yourself, love your vessel, because if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't be able to do any of this, you know? So,
crazy, isn't it? It's actually crazy when you think about it, like how your body has just created your whole future for you.
Yeah, we don't give thanks to that. You know, we don't wake up and thank our heart for beating, and, you know, grateful for another breath. And that's something that, you know, any of my people that take my classes or, you know me, it's something I say all the time.
100%.
So.
And what do you wish people understood more about trauma or healing and the nervous system?
Oh, that's a great question.
It is.
Okay, that's a great question. Okay. The biggest thing I would say is healing isn't mental. This is something that this was the biggest shift for me. Most people try and heal through the mind. They do the affirmations, they do the vision boards, they do the, you know, the manifestation, the law of attraction, the right, you know, all these different things. Yeah. You cannot think your way into safety. It's impossible. You know, it's physiological, it's through the body. And that is the biggest misconception out there. And the biggest thing that I see online, and people, you know, direct people, you know, in the wrong way, because none of these things matter if you're not regulated. None of them work if you're coming from survival, you're coming from a dysregulated state. Obviously, we manifest consciously, subconsciously all the time. We create our reality. Your personality creates your reality, right? Your personal reality. And that's Joe Dispenza that teaches that. And, you know, but people try cognitive insight. They try to logic. They try to think their way through healing. If I tell myself this, if I do these rituals, if I do all these things, it doesn't work. None of that works if your body is bracing, if you are not truly in a regulated state, because you're attracting from lack. So therefore the patterns repeat. And then you're like, man, why do I keep attracting the same thing? Because you're moving from survival, you're moving from that dysregulated state. So that would be the biggest thing. You can't think your way into safety. You have to come through the body. You have to slow the breath, slow the heart rate, interrupt the loops, interrupt the triggers, and, you know, and do that consistently over time. And then knowing that the triggers are the best window to rewire. They're your invitations. Most people try to suppress, distract, or they miss that moment because it's so uncomfortable. And you get to the point of where you realize that, wow, like this is, okay, I'm grateful for this trigger. Thank you for this trigger. Like now I get to rewire, like woohoo. Even though it feels uncomfortable, you have to get used to being uncomfortable, because that's where the growth really is.
100%. I think that was my biggest thing with you, is the uncomfortableness, because I remember every time I used to contact you, you used to be like, you're trying to do it through your mind. And I'm like, I'm not, I'm telling my body, and you're like, Amy, you're trying to do it through your mind. It's not possible. And I think it was that uncomfortable feeling of like, almost like, what do you mean I'm doing it wrong? Like, it's my mind. And it's like, no, you are. Like, you've got to listen. You've got to take it in. And it was being in that uncomfortable moment that you realise, okay, I've just got to do what she's saying and let me see if I feel it. And
just go sit, breathe, calm the body.
You've got to breathe it through. You've got to calm your body. You've got to listen to your body. Like you said, that is key. You've got to listen to what your body wants. But being uncomfortable is 100% something I've learned, and especially in the last like 3 months, you've got to be uncomfortable sometimes. You can't sit comfortably, otherwise you just won't learn. You'll never learn.
Yeah, you can't be afraid of it. You can't be afraid of the feeling. But at the same time, like for anyone that does suffer majorly with anxiety, it's challenging, right? Because it takes time. And, you know, but once you stop fearing that feeling and you actually work with it and you just sit with it and you're like, I'm going to be okay. I've got me, right? I can regulate myself. You then, you know, and that's the other thing I would say that is a big misconception is people don't understand how much they externally regulate themselves and think that they're okay because they get temporary relief in that moment by reaching out and creating some logic, using AI, or because that's the biggest thing right now. Everybody uses chat like a therapist, and it's doing you more damage than good because you're just constantly externally regulating yourself. If you think about it, if you see a therapist, you wait all week to see a therapist. Whereas now in the moment, people go, oh my God, tell me why I'm feeling like this. Why has this happened? Psychoanalyze this person. Tell me what. It doesn't matter how you prompt it. It's regulating you because it's giving you some kind of certainty, right? And then that's when people then miss, let me regulate myself first. And then if you want to gain cognitive insight and logic after, which most of the time you don't need to, but if you want to do it afterwards, then that's different. But you've got to learn to regulate yourself first. You know, and that's the most important thing.
I think that's like one of the major things you taught me as well is like, I think when I really felt it the most was when we was on holiday in Mexico and I was bad out there where I was poorly and I was messaging you and I was showing you what I was saying to chat and you was like, no, stop that. Regulate yourself first and then message these kind of questions. And you explained like, don't ask for like certainty, figure it out and then ask why you was doing that. Don't ask, am I having this feeling because of this? Like, just figure it out yourself first and then speak to chat, because I think that's a major thing that I do. The minute I feel an off feeling, hi chat, like, what's going on here? Like, and it is the worst because
why am I feeling like this?
Yeah, it's not normal. It's not normal to do that. Like you said, if people go through therapy, they're waiting a week. Like if they go once a week, they're waiting a week till they can speak to someone. Why are we instantly picking the phone up and speaking to a robot about how our body feels? Like we have to figure it out for ourselves. They can't feel what we're feeling. Yeah, not
exactly. And all it does is reassure you.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I'm losing.
It kind of brings me on to what impact do you hope, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I'm just going to say it how I say it, but the CIRA system will have on the world.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I use this daily now, like daily. And at first, I'll be dead honest, and you know, I've said it to you, I'm like, this ain't working, this ain't going to work for me. Like, why by doing this, is this going to change my mind? But I was very uneducated on how strong the mind is and how we can actually rewire. I was so impressed with how we can actually rewire our own brains. Like I'll hold my hands up, I was so uneducated on it until I spoke to you. And I was like, this whole holding my heart, holding my tummy, telling myself, I'm saying, this ain't going to change my mindset. It's just, and you was like, Amy, it won't at first because your mind, you've not rewired your mind enough. Keep doing it every day, especially morning and night. And then if you have that feeling, do it. The more you do it, the more you're going to realise it works. And I'll be honest, I was like, no way. Oh my God, it is like my go-to everywhere now. The minute I'm anxious, I'm like in the toilet, like, just tell yourself you're fine. Look at yourself in the mirror. You've got this. Like, it's just an off feeling. You're having an anxious moment. And now I just find myself, I'm like this all the time. Like, and it's amazing what you've done. Absolutely amazing. Props to you.
Yeah.
But how do you, what impact do you hope it will do on the world?
Do you know what it is for me? Is I hate to see people suffer, right?
Yes.
I know how it feels to suffer in your mind. You know, and suffering in your mind, in yourself, is probably one of the most awful things that you can experience. So when you've moved from a place of anxiety and it's something that you've struggled with, ruminating thoughts, over processing, over analyzing, hypervigilance, you know, I hate to see other people moving from that space when I know that I have a tool that literally universally can work for anybody because it's science backed. And, you know, our human bodies all work the same way, right? Mm-hmm. And like, not, you know, not in every way, I'll correct myself in saying that, but in the sense of like, there's certain things that are universal, and the work is returning the body back to safety. And that is the most important thing you can do. Catch your body, return it back to safety. Catch it, return it back to safety. And I want to give people something tangible that they can do in the moment every day that really, you know, teaches them, you know, the interruption of those survival patterns, of that suffering in your mind, of that point of burnout or collapse, or, you know, really learning to build your life from a regulated state, because it looks completely different. It feels completely different. And, you know, I just want to show people that safety is something that is a learnable skill that everybody can do. And it just, you know, and that's what I hope that everybody can see, that you can do this too. You just have to have, you know, you have to want it, you know, you have to be like, okay, I don't want to move from this space anymore. And I just, you know, I really want to stop people from suffering, because that's what I hate to see, because I know how it feels. It's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah. You don't need to suffer.
No, not at all. Like, we're all here to have a good time. We can't be suffering within that. Christy, what I think you're doing is absolutely amazing. Like, as I said, you've helped me change my life, and I know you've done many others. It's amazing what you've done. What would your past self think if she could see you now?
She would be relieved. She would finally exhale. She would, my shoulders would drop. I'd be, you know, I wouldn't feel so urgent or anxious about the future. I used to live from a space where I constantly worried about the future. What was I going to do? How was it going to be? Was I going to do enough? You know, how was I going to... I just, you know, I worried about that. I was anxious, and I had this urgency that I needed to go out and I needed to do more, and I needed to, you know, achieve more and make more money. And, you know, what a horrible space to live from. It's horrible. You know, it's not nice. It's just a constant state of, like I said, dysregulation, of waking up every day and being like, oh, I've got to go out and I've got to achieve this and I've got to do that. And, you know, I would just literally, you know, I'd just be relieved. I would just literally be like, it's okay, Christy. You always figure it out. You figured it out.
You figured it out well. Very, very well. Okay, we're gonna close up on a quick fire round.
Oh,
so
okay,
I'm gonna
cool.
fire 5 questions at you, and I just want the first thing that comes to you.
Okay.
So, one nervous system truth everyone should know.
Creating safety changes everything.
Yes, I agree. One thing you're proud of but don't say often.
I didn't abandon myself.
Yes. A phrase or belief that grounds you.
Oh, I have 2. Can I say 2?
No, yeah.
Nothing is required of me right now, and there's nothing for me to fix. They're my 2.
Oh, they're powerful. Ooh.
Yeah.
And the last one is one practice you couldn't live without.
Oh, I have 2. Pausing before you react.
Yes.
And my pranayama, my breath work.
Yes. I think people underestimate breath work so much.
Oh, so underestimated.
Yeah.
It's the gateway to do with everything.
No, 100%. I learned that when I done my 10-day cleanse. Like, we done breath work in the morning. I was thinking, why? But by day 10, I realised it was life-changing.
Yes.
My last question for you is, what would you say to someone listening right now who knows something needs to change, but their body still feels scared to move forward?
Start with regulating your nervous system first. Start with safety. Start with coming inwards every day, morning, night. Download my nervous system reset method. Learn how to do it. Catch your triggers. Start there. Because anything, if you try to do anything before you do that, you're moving, you don't know when you're going to reach burnout or when you're going to collapse or, you know, how long it's going to last or any of those things. When you create safety first, it's like building a house. You have to have a strong foundation, because then when things come along, stress never stops coming. It's never going to stop. But you learn how to deal with stress, the safer you are within your nervous system. Everything begins with the nervous system. That is the foundation of your house. That's your, you know, you do not want to build a house on a rocky foundation, because it will collapse.
100%.
Yes.
100%. Christy, thank you for being my first guest on Her Table. I'm so grateful. I'm gutted we couldn't do it in person, but obviously you're in America and I wasn't waiting till September to do this with you. You're an inspiration. You're great. You're a great human. You should be so proud of yourself. And again, thank you for coming on, sharing your wisdom and your heart with us today. I have thoroughly enjoyed listening to your story. I've learned more about you today than I even knew. You're an inspiration. You're an inspiration to many, and you should be super proud of yourself. Do you want to quickly let people know where they can find you on social media and how to stay connected with your story?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook. It's just my name, Christy Morano. I think you'll post my name.
Yeah, I'll post your Instagram. And I will attach the link for your book, because again, I've read it and it's definitely something to go to if you can't catch yourself and just read through on how to catch the loop and help your nervous system. And to everyone listening, thank you for being here. If this episode has resonated with you, make sure to follow, share, and stay connected with everything that's going to be happening here. I've got so many more exciting guests to land up, and this is just the beginning for me. I'm so excited.
Just the beginning.
Just
I'm so proud of you. This is awesome.
Thank you. And to everyone here, your seat at the table will always be here, so please do come back. Thanks, Christy. I'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah.